like just to understand the balance of things. I think it leads into, we were talking about the prayer of Jabez, like how do you go from praying to be average to praying to have your territory enlarged?
Daddy, can I play the music now? But this we go.
You know that I got love for my kinfolk, my blood. Through the thick and thin, we hit no matter.
This is me and Daddy here, and Jenny also. And we're here to teach you something, founded by So Your Grind. And goes a little something like this. Take it over, Daddy.
Welcome to Family Abide, So Your Grind. This is a podcast series highlighting lessons learned by the hard knocks and by grace. My name is Robert E. Meska Jr. and my co-host is Divine Lee, aka D. Lee. Our podcast intersects between the culture, faith, family, and finance.
Episode 18, Average Than a Mug. Have you ever heard of anyone praying to be average? That's not a usual request. So, when Charity was vulnerable enough to discuss her childhood prayer to be average, I immediately thought about an abundance versus a scarcity mindset. Every morning, we say the prayer of Jabez with our children to highlight an abundance mentality. They might not fully understand, but we say the prayer of Jabez together in order to believe that they can achieve great things. We also discuss what we would do if one of our children told us that they prayed to be average. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. We're here on Family Abide So Your Grind, the Yard Edition, Average Than a Mug. We're here with Charity, my better half, and Amor, our newest half. So, Charity, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Welcome back. So we were talking. It's been a busy summer. How's the summer been for you?
For me, summer has been busy. I feel like I'm supposed to be resting a little bit, but I've been running all the little ones around from here to there and everywhere. And you can probably hear baby Amore in the mics because she just spit out her passy.
And how have you been feeling being a new mom?
A new mom of 3. First of all, happy 5 months to baby Amore,
This is the fifth month anniversary.
her 5th month birthday. So we are 5 months of being a mother and father of 3, of 3 little girls. So what was your question though?
How's it being a new mother?
A new mother. So now I'm a mom of 3. So how is it being a new mom of 3?
Correct.
I don't know yet. I am still at home with Amore, still running the kids around from daycare to summer camp to another summer camp to swimming class to this camp to that camp to basketball, nursing and all that stuff. And I'm at home, thankfully, with Amore. So I don't have to worry about working and all that stuff right now. So it's just been, right now, just been busy and trying to find a pace that works right now.
Right. And one of the things that you got for Father's Day was this Mixcam or Tascam Miscast 4, and we are on it for the first time. So let us know how our audio is. We're still experimenting, but it's good to have it. So during our conversation recently, we were talking about a few things. And one of the things we were talking about is as we were growing up, something that you talked about that really brought up the abundance versus scarcity mindset. And the thing that you said was that when you were younger, you prayed to be average. And I just kind of want to get a little bit of insight into why you said that.
Cool. First of all, I remember praying that prayer. I don't remember where I was. I don't remember if it was middle school or high school, but I remember praying that prayer. Honestly, I felt like I've worked hard to be good at a lot of things, like really, truly. Nothing has really come naturally to me. Like my dad would say, this is probably doesn't sound very great, but he would always say, Charity, you're slow. But once you got it, you got it. So for me, it's like, oh my gosh, it takes me a lot of time to be good at something. But when I'm good at it, I'm really good at it. And I think a lot of people recognize the work ethic in me, and that propelled me a lot of times to be great in a lot of different things. But at the same time, I feel like I have began to get closer to teachers, mentor like figures, and I wasn't really close to people my age. Even still, like I'm closer a lot of times to people that are much older than me. And a lot of times when you're younger and you are like that, you don't really fit in. And so I felt like, I needed to pray to be average so that I could fit in a little bit better.
I was just going to ask you what was comfortable about being average. So you would say the comfort of being average is fitting in?
I feel like, well, maybe it's feeling fitting in, maybe it's trying to understanding your peers more so that you could have friends or even I guess what people definitely don't want to admit to be likable. Like being 12 or 11 years old and being closer to your 45-year-old dance teacher is probably not what most people do. And then so when you're talking more to your dance teacher than your friends, then maybe it's a little bit difficult to understand like what a 12, 11-year old is supposed to be doing or even talking about. Whereas you want to talk about dance all the time or let's say math all the time. But your friends are talking about like playing jump rope or other things that kids do.
So one of the things is when you have children or when you look at some of the greats in their field, whether you look at Serena and Venus, you look at Tiger Woods, you look at some of the other people, um, during that time frame, they were pushed um, to be great. Is there something scary about being great or being pushed? And where do you find that line, both as a parent and both as a child?
I would dare say, knowing what I know about myself back then and now raising children, I'm definitely not going to say I'm like or want to be like a King Richard or something like that, but understanding how it feels to be great and be pushed, but also want to live a, a child's life. That, but then it was pressure for us to not if there wasn't even pressure. My parents did not pressure me to be great at anything, but it was almost like we were the first. Like I was the first person to, let's say, not be a teacher right out of college. I graduated college. First of all, I didn't want to go to college, and we talk about that all the time. But my mom wanted me to go to college, and I went to college knowing that I wanted to be a dancer. And my parents allowed me to do everything to pursue that dream. So there was something that they didn't fulfill in me when I was doing that. Now, as a parent, now it's like I've done something that my parents didn't have an opportunity to do. So now I can help them to do things and not feel pressure of it and let them be great at it. And then also let them try things that they may not be great at. So that pressure of you need to be great at it because you're the first, I don't think I'll be putting that on my kids.
I mean, I think one of the things that about being great is also being exposed, right? So a lot of times we have, as parents, we choose or we highly encourage or push them into one area. But I think one of the things as parents is that if we expose them to a lot, then they can find an area, hopefully, that they can be great in just by the nature of us giving them that opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what it is. And because, and first of all, let's not neglect the fact or negate the fact that you were also a football player when you were in high school. And that's something that wasn't quote unquote normal in your family as a first generation American and now going on to pursue football. And also not having, and this is not to negate like how your parents parented you or diminish that, but like not having the support in that. Like my parents, they were at every ballet recital or every dance concert, and they were really there, helping me to see like, oh, this is something that you want to do. Keep doing it. But at the same time, because it was something that I wanted to do, I I didn't think that I needed to do other things. Now with us as parents, especially your parents of three girls, like we talked about in the beginning, like they're in everything. And I think something that we want them to do is be in everything. Try everything that you're good at or that you think you want to do. And even those things that you're not good at and see how you can become better at it. For me, I think the thing about mediocrity or being average is like, even that, like being really good at one thing may be average in term and instead of like saying I'm going to do this and this and this, there's that one quote that says, but just being for me it was like I want to be good at this one thing instead of understanding how to do and pursue multiple things.
Yeah, a jack of all trades and a master of none. Um, so how would you say, looking back then and now, how do you see that abundance versus scarcity mindset, and how would you, yeah, just look at that. How would you see an abundance versus scarcity mindset, and how have you changed or grown?
In terms of being average
Yeah, I
or
mean,
in terms of finances.
I would say in everything, because if you're praying to be average at that time, right? There was a level of fitting, a level of comfort, a level of wanting to fit in, and is that something that still that defines you or is part of your being? Like, well, I want to fit in, or I don't want to stand out.
I don't want to
I don't
stand
want
out.
to. I don't want to be great.
I don't think that's necessarily the case. Like, and I told you this the other day. I think that, and this is how we started thinking about this should be the podcast, because I don't think that anybody who knows me, especially who knows me as a dancer, would say that she was average. I was never an average dancer. I think I just wanted to be like overall, my birthday is also October 22nd. Do with that what you will. Like just to understand the balance of things. I think it leads into we were talking about the prayer of Jabez. Like how do you go from praying to be average to praying to have your territory enlarged?
So that's one of the things that we're going to get into next. Was so every morning we say two prayers. We say the Lord's prayer, and then we say the prayer of Jabez. But there's four areas that they talk about specifically. So the first one is bless me. The second one is enlarge our territory.
Bless me indeed.
Bless me indeed. Yeah. Enlarge our territory. The third one is let your hand be over me, and then the fourth one is to keep us from harm. So we say this every day, and they say it.
Our kids say it.
Our kids say it, but I don't think they know.
So that we may not cause any evil. You missed that one too. That's five. No pain. Or so that and they say it differently in different
They do.
translations. Either so that we don't cause any pain or that we don't feel any pain. No, because I would dare say the pain part, the not feeling any pain part, is the average part for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's the I don't want to have too many high highs or too many low lows. I don't want to feel the pain of having a high and then coming down from that. Or I don't want to have a feeling of being in pain and trying to get out of that pain. So that's the scarcity mindset.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let me be average so that I don't feel any pain, which negates the whole beginning part of that prayer.
Yeah. So, I mean, since we kind of let's just go ahead. We can always cut it out. But let's go ahead and say the prayer since you kind of brought it up.
We're going to say it together?
Yeah.
Okay, come on, ready?
Oh Lord,
Bless
bless
us
us indeed,
indeed
and
and
enlarge
enlarge our
our territory,
territory
and
and
keep
keep
your
your
hand
hand
over
over
us,
us and
and keep
keep
us
us
from
from
evil,
evil so
so that
that
we
we
may
may
not
not
cause
cause any
any pain.
pain.
So, with that, I think one of the things that we are trying to talk about is creating a mindset in our kids to want to be great and not to be scared to be great, at
And
least for me,
mhm,
and to ask for big things.
ask for big things and have an abundance mindset. Ask for big things, do big things, and know that you're worthy of it.
So, a lot of things too. So, that comes with it. Being a minority female, a lot of times they might not feel that they're entitled to big things.
Mm,
So, that true abundance mindset is knowing that I can ask for big things and I can expect big things. So having that expectation, I think one of the things that you were, I don't know what I kind of perceived when you said you prayed that prayer to be average is that you wanted to be great, but there was comfort in being average. I think being great or being number one, it comes with a lot of it's hard, because you have a lot of expectations. People always try to knock you off the top. You might not make as many friends,
mm,
or people want to be your friends for the wrong reason.
mm-hmm.
So I think that just all that included, it can make it challenging. So with that said, what specifically would you want them to know now? Like if we were going to sit down and talk to them about this prayer, basis, and you asked me, what does even an enlarged territory look like?
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't sure.
Mm-hmm. And I blessed to have this time with baby love, baby Amore, and I can spend time listening to the Bible as much as possible, um, reading, sitting with what I've read, and just thinking about things. And actually, I've been reading First Chronicles, which is where the prayer of Jabez is, and I think maybe in chapter 7, I went back to chapter 4 of First Chronicles, and I read it again, and I said to myself, we've been praying this prayer for an enlarged territory. What does that look like? Which is completely different from my middle school prayer of, Lord, just let me be average. I don't want any high highs. I don't want any low lows. I want to fit in. I want to be okay. Because I text Robert, and I think, did I text you? And I was like, what does an enlarged territory look like? And I didn't know. I wrote a prayer, but I'm not going to read the prayer. But what I wrote in my notes, it says territory. Because first of all, not even an enlarged territory, but what is territory to me? Because in my head, I'm like, I don't necessarily think I want land, but what does territory mean? So I definitely went to the Webster's Dictionary, and it had a list of things that territory could be. My questions to myself were, what responsibilities will you have with this territory? What will you have authority over? What will you have power over? What do you want to grow or flourish? And that was it. It was just those 4 questions.
So you you bring up a lot of good points. So as far as can you go ahead and say those four parts again?
Okay. So I believe the synonyms that it gave me was responsibility, authority, power, and it might have been some others, but those are the 3 that I took and ran with. But my questions to myself were, what responsibility will you have? What will you have authority over? What will you have power over? And what do you want to grow or flourish?
Yeah. So whether that be financially, spiritually, relationally, um,
I think that it's important that we understand or have a little bit of better understanding of what we're asking for. And I think it's sometimes people don't know, or they might pray to be rich or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But
Mm-hmm.
you got to understand that, whether, because the first thing they asked was in the prayer Jabez was bless me indeed and enlarge our territory. So it's giving us, an ability to either, and that could be in many ways. You can enlarge your territory. You can be more influential.
Mm-hmm.
You can be more known. You can have more money. You can be great at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that
And I think the reason I called out indeed when we said it is because if you read, I think it's Brian Wilkinson's book, The Prayer of Jabez, and we got it when we were in Rochester and we were going to church there. But he points out that indeed means a lot. So, oh Lord, bless me a lot. But what does that mean? And I think, like, Jabez knew what that meant for him because it says that God granted him what he prayed for. So, what does a lot mean? Going back to do you know what you're asking for?
yeah, I mean, I think that today a lot of people don't know what they're asking for. And I don't know if you ultimately have to know exactly
Mm-mm,
what you're asking for, but I think you should be aware enough to know if you do, if you don't.
mm.
And I think a lot of times people don't even know. So
And that was the note because I started to read this fourth part, which I thought it was a question, but it was just a note to myself to ask to grow in knowledge of the Lord because I can't remember who it was in the Old Testament, but there is someone who asked, I want to say it was David, but asked for God to bless him in knowledge. And that ruler was the most blessed ruler. So I think knowledge is always the key, but also knowledge of what it is that God wants you to do. And as I was sitting down thinking of what an enlarged territory means and just asking God, what what do you want me to have territory over? Not me. Like I know that I can say I want to be rich, which I don't necessarily know or think I want to do. And there are things that I can think off the top of my head that I think I might want. But Lord, give me the knowledge of what you want me to have territory and dominion and power over.
I think that's important. So, um, a lot of times you want to be used, right? You want to be used to the best of your abilities. And I think that's ultimately what most of us want. So, like, are we doing the best? Are we living up to what um, our potential is and can be? Um, a lot of times the chips will work themselves out when we ask for things that are we don't really understand. So, like when we ask for, or when we see people on social media and we see their lifestyles and say, "Hey, I want to go and live their vacation," or "I want to um, have that car." I mean, they might have a hard time sleeping at night.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what goes along with that. So, these are things that hopefully that we're instilling in our kids when we're exposing them to conversations about money, when we expose them to conversations about value, when we expose them to conversations about enlarging their territory, they can understand that it's only so much territory that you can have physically, but there's also territory that you can build with relations. There's also territory that you can build spiritually. There's also territory that you can build with peace of mind within yourself. Those are conversations, and hopefully, when we have them initially, it's very trivial. It's not anything that's deep, but the goal, at least with us, is to, and even this conversation allows us to think about it like, what are they actually getting from what we're doing?
Well, I think we've talked about this a little bit because our oldest child, Divine, I feel like she reminds me of both of us, like the best parts of both of us. Like with you, she's outgoing in her own right. Like she knows when to be outgoing and when to speak up for herself. And for me, I see that she's very disciplined and obedient in different ways. And so, because she follows rules and she's obedient, a lot of her teachers specifically really like her. And sometimes I'm like, well, Divine, you have to push yourself beyond this point because sometimes people like you and they'll push you further to where you are. Let's say, for example, swimming. Divine is doing very well at swimming, but her teachers also like her a whole lot. So there are certain things that I look at as a parent, and I'm like, she could do that better. But the teachers like her so much that they're like, she's ready. And now when I go home and I'll tell her, like, you did great. And I always ask her three questions. Was something you had fun doing? Was something you need to work on for the next class? And was something you did very well? And we always have this conversation after every swim class because I want her to take ownership of her learning, even if it's something that she's doing recreationally. Like, what is something that you can do better the next time?
So let's go back to that because I think that goes back into enlarging your territory. Um, what are the three questions that you ask, and why do you ask those specific three questions? And you asked them. This is something that we asked during a lot of things this summer because she participated in different things, whether it be music camp or participating into basketball camp or swimming. Why are you asking those questions, and what are you trying to?
So, one thing that I've been working on as an adult is tact. So Robert always tells me I need to work on my tact. So I try the sandwich method with my kids. So I ask two positive questions. Sandwiched in the middle is something where they can grow. So not necessarily something negative, but a growth question. So I ask both of our kids, what's something you had fun doing? So they can think about, oh, whatever we were doing was fun, especially Journey, because she doesn't necessarily like swimming. But what's something you did that was fun? So I get that heart emotion right there. Oh, this was fun. That was fun. Blah, blah, blah. I love doing this in class. What was something that the teacher told you that you can work on, or something that they told you you can do this instead of that while you're, say, doing your strokes or whatever they're working on? And then what's something that you did well? So that's the taking ownership. I did this very well. The teacher said I did this well. I'm able to move on to the next thing.
So, and that gives them a little bit of time to reflect, which as adults, we don't even do that well. I think the more that they understand where they are and where they're trying to go, it gives them the opportunity to want to be great. It gives them the opportunity to want to expand their territory. So I think it's important, like, as you're going through conversations, not only with yourself, but as a family, about what does wealth look like?
Mm.
What does happiness look like? What does your dreams look like? It's for them to have a good understanding of where they are now and what they're doing now and how that can impact whatever they want to be or do in the future. All right. So, just a couple quick questions. If you had an opportunity to go back and speak to that 10, 11, 12-year old young girl who prayed to be average, what would you tell them now?
And that's okay. I would say it's okay to go through your average years so that you could get to the point where you understand where it's okay to be average, be extraordinary. I think that's the thing. Like, there was a point where I was like, I want to be ordinary. I want to be extraordinary. Two separate things, like very ordinary, not extraordinary, but very ordinary. But that's okay to want to have this time where you not only think that you want to be average, but also to see what's around you and embrace what's around you so that you can see what you want and what you don't want. And so you know how to pray when you get older and then understand what abundance might look like.
My question is, do you really think that they wanted to be average though?
You
Or
talking about me. They is me.
okay, you. So you, do you think that was really your prayer or you just said that? Because
I'm pretty sure I prayed it.
no, I understand. I understand you really said that. But when you say average,
The thing is, the question is, do I know what average is? That would be the better question because I'm not sure that I know what average is because I've never really been average. There have been times, I think I'm probably more average now than I ever was because I'm living, and this is something we haven't talked about yet, living this middle class life. But it's extraordinarily at middle class. Like there's nothing like still ordinary about the way we live in middle class. Now we may not have gone to the Beyonce concert,
well,
but that's because that's not necessarily something that I want to do.
yeah. Because like, say if just for me, say if Divine came up to me and say, "I want to be average." First thing I would ask is why.
Why?
Right,
Right.
right. And when they start and say it's like, well, I want to fit in, and then so I think really what you're saying is that you want to fit in, you
Well, I
want to
said
be.
that.
I know what you're saying. You want to be liked, but
Okay.
so that's why I asked. So I said, so I would tell us like, well, you shouldn't want to be average. You can want to fit in, but that's different from being average.
I feel like also there's nothing wrong with being average. Maybe that's just, and that's the thing. Like especially when you're younger, there's nothing wrong with being average. Now, if I'm thinking about average, where I'm saying like I'm doing everything that everyone else is doing, that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about, and forgive me, all of the super Christians. I'm not super Christian, but my birthday, as I said in the beginning, is October 22nd, and so we know that that's Libra. Libra, sometimes they put it on the cusp, but Libra. And Libra is all about these scales, like knowing like when you're really high and when you're really low. And there was a point in time a few years ago where I was like, I'm the part in the middle, not the scales, the ones that go up and down, but the part in the middle that tries to make the scales balanced. And for me, I think that's the thing, like not, as I said before, not really having too many high highs and not having too many low lows, but just trying to find that middle plane where your emotions don't get too high. And that's not to say that that doesn't happen, but like to find that space where it's like, this is okay being here. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being average. The question would be like, literally, what is average? Like I don't think I'm average, especially not now. Like you know more about me than anyone else. There is nothing about us that is really average, though based on social media standards, we might look a little below average, but we know that's not really our life.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I think there is a lot of benefit of someone to allowing someone space to be in that emotion and then grow from there. But I guess as a father, I would be like, and I think it's hard work to explore, especially when you're talking to someone young. Explore why you feel a certain way, and then because to me, and this is probably part the upbringing is like, well, you just always want to do the best that you can be.
I think the better part of this conversation is believing that our kids would be brave enough to tell us that they prayed that prayer, right? Like to come to mom and dad and say, you know what? I think I want to be average. Now, what I've learned from my parents, my father particularly, is to ask questions. I think asking questions, which is what I do with the kids after they've done an enrichment, holds the kids more accountable. Like I know when I was in college, I would complain and I would say this, that, and the third. My dad would say, "Well, do you want to come home?" He didn't say come home. He didn't say, well, you need to try harder. He was like, do you want to come home? And now I gotta figure out the answer to that question. Do you want to go home? Do you want to stop doing all of this? Is it really that bad? Do you want to go home? And like you said, like as a parent, you would say, well, why? Why do you want to be average? And I think that's the thing about parenting is that first of all, we pray that our kids are brave enough and comfortable enough to come to us and say, you know what, mom and dad, this is how I feel. And then as a parent, us being brave enough and comfortable enough and knowing that our kids are strong enough and saying to them, why do you feel that way? And then having a conversation based on that. Now, the question in order to continue that conversation with our kids, now we would have to, from at this point now, is to kind of imagine what the reasons would be. Like I can tell them right now, like what my reasons were, but I feel like, especially how our kids are, they are completely their own people. And I was the baby of three. Very like very different people. So, and I spent a lot of time with my parents. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, I think we would probably approach it a little differently.
But also, I didn't tell my parents that I prayed that prayer. So it'd be interesting to hear what they say after they hear this episode.
Yeah, like I think I don't like you said. There's nothing wrong with being average. It's hard to regret doing your best, and I think a lot of times people who are average often don't try their best.
Okay, that could be clear, but we talking about me.
But that don't mean that you were average. It just means that you prayed to be average. It's a difference.
Okay.
It's a difference.
Y'all hear our baby crying. Let me go get her. Where was I?
You were saying that there was nothing average about you, and that's what I'm saying. A lot of times, and the people that I experience, a lot of people, they have so much talent or they have so much good skill set, and they just didn't really try. They knew they could get by with being average. They knew they can get by with just doing something that it wasn't that they didn't have more that they could do. They were just content without trying. And I think that to me is so if you try your hardest and you're average, then that's perfectly fine. But if you're average and you didn't try hard, then that's the problem.
I went to go pick up the baby and I lost my train of thought. So, um, but let me see if I can bring it back. Yeah, I mean, what I was thinking as I was coming up the stairs is that what you're saying to me is God did not grant me what I wished for. I shouldn't say wish for, what I prayed for, because I prayed to be average, and God was like, yeah, you really don't want that. Uh, so our God is a God of his promises, and I think that God still wants more from us as a family. And we'll see what our kids grow up to desire or what they pray for. And we pray with them every night out loud. So, and we're teaching them how to pray. And I think that's a good thing. So hopefully when they get older and they want something or they have a desire on their heart, on their heart, that they feel comfortable praying about it and also talking to us about it. And I think that's hopefully where we're heading with our kids.
All right. Anything else?
No, because now Amora's awake and I can't think.
Who's got my back?
I got your back.
Who's got my back?
Who got that swag?
Who got that swag?
I got that swag. I work it off.
Okay.
Purpose to make this life worth it. Through the joy and pain, you gotta keep searching. Living life, no regrets. Ain't no shoulda, woulda, coulda, had an altar. Still been a minute since I've been up at the altar.
Thank you for listening to Family Abide. Make sure to subscribe in order to catch future episodes. Family Abide is available on all your favorite podcast outlets. Remember, life is not just about family. It's not just about wealth. It's about building people and communities that endure without yielding. Always choose your abundance beyond insecurities, debts, and entanglements. The next generation is depending on us. Remember your purpose. Sow your grind and watch it grow. Thank you for joining us on Family Abide.
So you're crying.
Everybody need love. Everybody need love. I'm tired of my problems. I'm tired of the drama. I'm tired of the pressure from my mama and my papa. I'm tired of the pain. I'm tired of the rain. I'm tired of the hurting. I'm tired of the working. I'm tired of the struggling. I'm tired of the hustling. I'm so sick and tired of having nothing.
Jam, you got something to say?
But I have to say, I was thinking when you went.
Yeah, I think it's good developing daddy-daughter relationships.